The big picture that I'm really trying to say is there's a huge, huge explosion in how much waste we're actually generating. In fact, from 1947 to 97, just central pollution control statistics showed that, you needed 20,000 times percent more landfill space. Of course, it could also be a formal issue, but just look at how many people are in informal recycling. We're talking of huge numbers, like 2 million, and that is just one end of the spectrum. There are lots more. So essentially, we're looking at a huge waste increase from 42 million tons per day to 150 million tons per day. On the other hand, we're looking at this very robust sector, the informal recyclers, which are actually being able to handle the new kinds of waste. Because one of the things about the waste stream is it's dramatically changing. 95% of all electronic waste is handled by them, and a minimum of 20% municipal waste. We did a study, we did a case study for Delhi where we showed that they were actually saving more greenhouse gas emissions than any single project that got carbon emissions. In fact, 3.6 times more. And we used really conservative estimates. I just wanted to explain this pyramid because typically a lot of us only think of waste pickers. And obviously they're the most disadvantaged and marginalized amongst the recycling sector. And right on top are the reprocessors. But what I really want to emphasize is two things. Number one, again, a statistic from Delhi, 78% of all the little kabadiwala shops used to be waste pickers, and they just saved their savings and made little enterprises, which are these little junk shops. And what's very interesting is from the 90s, you used to have these large junk shops with a whole bunch of people coming and selling to them. And we look at what's happening now, and I'm talking largely of Delhi and little bits of UP. You're finding these small little shops showing up with an average of 7 clients, which means that suddenly they're much smaller and they also have less space, and they also have, because they can't store the waste, they need more space and more investment. So you have a robust sector, but when you have all this waste, and one of the key policy things that's happening is privatization, and really just the contours are the central thing that happens across this country, whether it's Nagpur, whether it's Delhi, whether it's any other place, is that a large private contractor gets a large contract to pick up waste through their own trucks with a GPS system and put it at the landfill. In many cases, they also have the contract to pick up the waste door to door. Let me first just talk about waste to energy plants. There are a slew of them coming up. Just a single company has like 15. It already has put up 2, but it's got 15 in the next 3 years with permissions for many of them. And what's happening is, and that's just one company, is that they need to take a lot of the paper and a lot of the plastic, and they need to convert it into fluff and basically get energy out of it. When you do that, then you usually divert, no matter what, they'll say, oh, we'll only take the waste you can't take or whatever. But basically, you need to divert this fundamental source of income from waste pickers, and that's what they're suddenly finding, that suddenly there's a factory, suddenly in Nagpur there's this gate, and 400 women are stuck outside. They can't go in, that's it. And in Delhi, we just finished a social impact assessment of the 2 waste to energy plants coming up. And what we found, and we did a really rigorous social impact assessment, and we found that there's a huge likelihood, the 2 communities, one of them, there's a significant likelihood of the children there going back to waste picking, who have started going partly or fully to school. And the other community also has that, but not to such a big extent. So what we're seeing is this policy on waste is actually taking away the kind of things that the families and communities of the poor are building for themselves. Access is number one, but it's not just some random access that people need. They need, number one, access to materials. And I've especially put this photo. It's from one of our doorstep, we do a lot of doorstep collection. But essentially, I've tried to show you that it's access to a colony, to where people live. And this is an untidy looking kabadi shop. But I'm proposing that you can actually have these kinds of places, but it's important to have them at a node where where they're needed. You cannot expect a waste picker to travel like 5 kilometers or 7 kilometers after they segregate their waste and then sell it. It's physically not possible. And then they can't pick up things like low-value plastics because it's not worth their while. And I'm saying this because our experience in New Delhi, where we also pick up, in fact, where we're sitting, a lot of the waste, is that over time, the planning has killed all the little junk shops. So there are no junk shops. There's one junk shop, but he only does high-value waste. So the waste pickers, after they go door to door, they all come from different areas, and Chintan doesn't have like a vehicle. So they pick up their waste and they travel up to 10 kilometers to sell something that's only 8 rupees a kilo, because of this planning that you haven't allowed junk shops, you haven't allowed space for waste in the center of your own municipality. This is a photo from the 2006 sealing activities. This was a bunch of kabadi women, rag picker women, and this was like all their worldly belongings. And they lived in these houses made of cartons, and they lived next to Jangpura, they were cleaning up like several tons of recycling, several tons of waste a month, sending all their children to school, including all the girls, which had never been done before. And when this happened, every single kid got pulled out of school. They all went on the periphery, and every single child still works. And this is like 5 years hence. My final thought is really, all of us talk about green jobs, but I think, and I do too, but I think two things. Firstly, I think our informal sector, at least recycling sector, is pushed so in a corner thanks to, despite having rules, we're just so pushed in a corner from privatization and this new technology coming in, that actually they've come into this very desperate resilience mode where they're saying just waste is enough, doesn't matter what conditions. We'll stand in the rain and pick it up, but we want access. And that's really, really unfortunate. And I really think that we should redefine green jobs, and this is my last slide, as things that are not only creating outputs that are good for the environment, but which are done in a process which is completely, in line with some kind of basic rights of the person.